Hey. There's a lot to catch up on. This shirt makes me look like I'm a Mario Kart character. I'm in the mood to film, but I also feel like talking to the camera is not enough. I have to like be doing something with my hands. I think I've done my makeup before, so I need something to keep me preoccupied while I'm talking, to remind me that I am not just talking into a lens. But I recently got a package that I'm really excited about. Lately I've been really into Legos, and I found out they have a bunch of flowers now, so I've been ordering from their botanical collection a ton. I've already made some roses, but my package of tulips have arrived, so I figured that while I make these, I'll talk to y'all. In hindsight, I should have opened this first so that it's not as embarrassing to open this on camera. We've got instructions and the packages of what will become my flowers. So as I am opening this all up, let's talk recent reads. I feel like I'm just gonna focus on books that either really stood out to me, really surprised me in good ways, just because I really am in a place where I just wanna focus on the positive right now. I'm gonna try to kind of show what I'm doing as often as possible, but I only have one camera, and that camera is talking to you, dear viewer. So promise that I'm doing things as I am talking, and I'll show y'all the end product after. Click. Amazing. I'm an engineer. So I feel like I've talked about this before, but one of my favorite YA contemporaries, even though it's a genre that I do not really get that excited about, is Rachel Lynn Solomon's Today, Tonight, Tomorrow. I'm pretty sure I raved about it in a past recap, that I was excited for anything that Rachel Lynn Solomon writes. She came out with another contemporary that also plays with the concept of time, so I was like, okay, of course, I need to read it. This was one of the rare times that I've like shot my shot with a publisher. One night after like a couple of drinks, I decided I would send Simon & Schuster my like pitching myself, and didn't hear anything back until one day I got a mysterious UPS email saying that I had something coming in the mail that day. Looked it up, was like, oh, straight from the box. They sent me a fucking arc of See You Yesterday. So I read it. I believe it's coming out soonish if it hasn't already. I liked it. I believe it's categorized as YA. It takes place during college, specifically the first day of the first semester of freshman year of college. So a lot of firsts. Oh shoot, am I missing parts? I'm not missing parts, we're good. Main character really wants everything to just go well. This is an opportunity for her own reinvention. She does not have to be who she has to be in high school, which is something that I think a lot of people, myself included, were really attracted to when they go to college in a new place. However, her first day turns into something of a disaster, culminating in a frat's house getting set on fire, which, I mean, that in itself is like kind of a bummer. But the next day she wakes up and realizes that she is living it all over again, and it's this Groundhog Day style situation. If you've ever seen the movie on Hulu, Palm Springs, by the way, fucking love that movie. I'm obsessed with Andy Samberg and Kristen Milotti, and that was like, it's a rom-com with time loop and huge existential discussions, and this book has a lot of that energy. Just getting that out of the way. And she realizes that she's gonna have to team up with this guy from her physics class that she had a really bad interaction with during her first day, because it turns out that she is not the only person who is cursed to relive this over and over again. Also, first tulip bulb is done. She's beautiful. She's great. Overall, I feel like I just really click with Rachel Lynn Solomon's writing. Something about it just really makes for a fun read for me. There's on the page Jewish representation, and the love interest himself is half Asian, half Jewish. That was really cool. And it's just a bunch of really fun hijinks where if you leave these two high schoolers to their own devices, and giving them infinite options for what to do with their day, when they're forced with that one day only, what would they do? What would they be up to? And how do they interact with each other, knowing they're the only ones who know what's going on and what they're experiencing. First, I thought it was gonna be science heavy. That made me a little bit nervous, but it's super accessible. The mechanics of their situation are not that hard to grasp, especially in comparison to other books I read this month. That's some fucking foreshadowing. But I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of discussions about not the main character not really wanting to be the type of person that she was in high school, and kind of looking to transform, and that was something I really related to going into college, and it just really made me empathize with her a lot. I really liked it. Did I love it as much as Today, Tonight, and Tomorrow? No, but I think that's just because that was very much a lightning in a bottle for me as a reader to connect with. I think I gave it 4 stars just because it did not hit 100% the same as Today, Tonight, Tomorrow did. But that's okay, and that's not its fault. And I still think that it's worth a good, fun read. That only took making 2 of these things fun. Next up. For someone who says that they don't read YA contemporary, I really do talk about a lot of YA contemporary. I went to Y'all West about a month ago, which is wild to think, and it was great. I got a bunch of books. Importantly, I went to a couple of events, and at one of these events, it was like a speed dating situation. We were sat at a table, and a bunch of authors kind of came up to us at different times to tell us about their book, which I thought was really great, hearing their perspective, asking them questions. But sometimes there's going to be authors that you don't really know. And this was a debut author whose book had not even come out at the point. Once she started talking about this book, I was kind of obsessed with the passion in which they spoke about it. One of the other people at our table had read it and was talking about how great it was. So I was like, oh man, I gotta check out this book. And then I ended up hanging around at the end of the event as they were cleaning up, because I was talking to a couple of people, and they ended up having a couple of arcs to give away. Like, it was super like right place at the right time situation, but I ended up getting one, and the author was still there, so I kind of was able to come up to her and ask if it was okay to get this book signed, to get this arc signed, and she was super excited. I've been going to these kinds of festivals for a while, where you get to interact with authors, but I just think this was so special, and it really made my festival. I was not expecting this book at all, but because I was so intrigued, I was like, I had to have it. So I immediately got to reading it, and holy shit. I am not typically a girl who goes for like sad books. This shit hit. It's called Some Mistakes Were Made by Kristen Dwyer. Here it is. It says to Ysabel, and then it has her signature. So I'm keeping this forever. Hello. I believe it was described as Sarah Dessen meets a Taylor Swift song, meets a bunch of emotional angst. It's about a girl who, due to certain circumstances, has to leave the small town she calls home, and the boy that she was closest to, feeling betrayed because he was part of the reason why she had to leave. It's been a year, and it's time for her to come back, and all of those interactions upon her return, and how she interacts not just with this boy, but with this family that she grew up with, and kind of took her in as their own in a way. I got confused by the instructions. I went in really skeptical, because I wasn't sure if I was going to be as drawn in, but I literally ended up like staying up so late just to read it, because I was so captivated by what was going on. It's a dual timeline, so you're seeing them grow close as you're also seeing how they've been broken apart and how that affects them, and it was just an emotional wreck. There's a lot of really interesting discussions about people who want to be put first and have never gotten the opportunity to be somebody's priority. Our main character has a lot of stuff going on at home with her own parents, and why she chooses to spend her time with this second family. It was brutal, but not in a way that makes you feel like I don't want to read it. Brutal in a way that's like, I need to keep knowing what's happening because I feel so invested in these people. So yeah, I really liked it. I think I gave it 4 stars. After that, I was like, I need something a little bit different from what I was currently reading. I ended up picking up this book that I had been wanting to read for forever. I even have it in its original version when it was still indie published. but I never ended up getting to read it. But I also got it in its traditionally published format. This is The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. And I feel like if you are on any sort of book talk, book Twitter, book Instagram, you have probably seen this book in some form or another. I went into it thinking I was really gonna like it. And sometimes you just prove yourself right, you know? Sometimes things can work out, you know? Sometimes there is no shoe drop. The book you think is gonna be good is just plain good. This group of people, as they are vying for spots in the secret society, there's some magic system that's very much based in science, and the intricacies of that, I'm gonna be honest, confused me very much. As much as it is a story about this these people in this great mysterious society trying to figure out this whole new world that's been kind of laid out for them, all the while knowing that someone will not be with them by the end of their I was gonna say internship, but that's not an internship, but it's kind of an internship. Like, some people will be staying, some people will be going. Specifically, one person will not be inducted into the society, and it's very important to each of these people that that is not them. So it's simultaneously having to work together while also watching their backs for the other initiates. While this story has so many intriguing aspects to its plot and its setting and, you know, what's going on, I feel like at its heart is a very character-driven story. What makes each initiate tick, why they're here, why they want to be here, and what differentiates them from their counterparts. Olivia Blake's writing, for me at least, is challenging in a way that makes me want to step my game up as a reader rather than discouraging me. I feel like it's reminding me how sometimes I can get a little bit complacent with scanning. I cannot scan pages with this book because I will miss like some fucking crucial piece of information. But it really reminds me to pay attention to a lot of the stuff that's to a lot of the sentences where things are not necessarily going on, because there are some fucking gems hidden within those sentences. Like, I see what some people are saying when they're like the writing is a little pretentious, but at least for me, I'm someone who's always really loved reading and, you know, reading for sport, and I feel like this reminded me what it feels like to really dig into a book. So that wasn't really an issue for me. I understand how it could be an issue for other people as well. I really liked it. However, I did not know that it was the first of a series. I think she said it's a trilogy somewhere on Twitter. So as the pages were starting to dwindle down, my heart rate was skyrocketing up because there were a lot of loose ends. That was fringe. That was nothing was tied up. It was just straight bunch of ends just out there. Fucking rocked. I'm excited for the Atlas Paradox, actually. And then I needed a break from that. So I feel like a lot of this is just me taking breaks from things, but I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and it was perfect timing because at work, my 9 to 5, my boss wanted to do like a little book club, and so we each got she got us each this book to check out whenever we had the time. And so I ended up reading it. It's called I Didn't Do the Thing Today on Letting Go of Productivity Guilt by Madeline Dorr. This is a nonfiction, but it's a nonfiction that talks about productivity and how sometimes we can be so focused on getting things done that our own efforts that we forget to prioritize our own well-being, and how sometimes letting go of that guilt of not being productive enough or not being fast enough can really just be beneficial in all aspects. There's a lot of talk about creating routines that don't burn you out, setting expectations that are realistic, not denying your own limits as a human being. As someone who tends to like to do a million things at once, as sometimes to her own detriment. I feel like this was a book that I really needed to read. There's a lot of things that I want to put into practice with my workload, both at my 9 to 5 and with hobbies like booktube or bookstagram. I think that it could be something that could really be applied. The writing style is super easy, even though it's a nonfiction talking about a specific subject. It reads more like a story than anything else. Super easy to understand. A lot of the chapters end in these bullets that kind of recap everything really nicely, but are also applicable. Applicable like thought starter questions to ask yourself the next time you need to be more aware of your own thinking. I don't rate nonfiction, but out of the nonfiction that I've read this year, I feel like this is one of my favorites. I felt like I truly came away with something that I can apply, and that's like my favorite type of nonfiction read. So definitely check it out if you're interested in learning about like productivity, but productivity in a way that is sustainable to you and your own mental health. So I finally made a bunch of what I believe are going to be the stems of the tulips. I don't know why I have 4, because there's 3 heads. Oh, maybe one is like an extra stem. Okay. The last current read I'm going to talk about, I read another Olivia Blake book, which is Alone with You in the Ether. She came out with before the Atlas 6. Oh. What the fuck was I talking about? Alone with You in the Ether. Yes. It was released before the Atlas 6. However, I just recently found out it's gonna be published traditionally by the end of this year as well, which I think is so exciting. It's described as a fantasy writer's take on a love story, and it really does read that way. This one actually made my brain still hurt a little bit, but definitely less. It follows 2 people, Reagan and Aldo, as they meet, interact with each other, figure out what they are to each other, and learn more about themselves, the other person, and the universe. I tell you, I think this is a new all-time favorite. This might be the high of finishing it yesterday. However, I fucking loved this book. It was a 5 stars. It had me in the first half. I thought I wasn't gonna like it. I was talking about this with a couple friends on stream yesterday. I think this book is what I wanted any Sally Rooney book to be. Sally Rooney doesn't really hit the spot for me, by the way. Not to her fault. Just did not click. However, this hit that spot for me. So much banter and a lot of intellectual conversation from people making these dumb mistakes. At first, I wasn't into it because I was not invested in the characters and really did not like either of them. But they grew on me. They charmed me. I was so fucking charmed. And they weren't even really trying to charm me. It just happened. It just happened. Full of 2 imperfect people finding each other, understanding what that means, in a way that's a little bit more nuanced and realistic, but still felt in its own way like very hopeful. Similarly to the Atlas 6, and I think this just might be a thing with a lot of Olivia Blake's writing, it's very much a character study over the plot, which is something that I think with this book was really worked in its favor, because it gave me more time to understand Aldo and Reagan, and understanding the hexagons and the bees. You feel like you are a part of their conversations, and when they bring up past references and inside jokes, you feel like you're kind of in on that joke also, because you remember that reference, you caught that reference. And just overall, the writing is beautiful. There's so many lines that I think would be such good tattoo quotes, which is a very specific thing to talk about a book, but the writing is gorgeous. Scratch the itch in my brain that is no longer in school. It really craves that feeling of like being a little bit pretentious, which I definitely feel like might not work for everyone, but for this gal particularly, it did. Did I just mess up, or did they not give me as many parts as they should have? So those are my current reads. A moment of appreciation for the tulip. Thank you all for listening. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I appreciate it. If you do end up all the way here at this timestamp, I think some parts might be missing, which I will probably need to figure out off camera because that's going to take too much time. But for the meantime, we got these 2 flowers. So as usual, thank you for watching. Interact if you feel like interacting. Have a good one. See you next time. Just kidding, we figured it out. All 3 flowers. My name is Isabel and you are watching Disney Channel.